Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Jerika Duncan.
And I'm Vladimir Dutip. Democratic candidates faced off over the past 2 nights in the second presidential primary debate. The candidates took to the stage in Detroit, where they focused on topics including health care, criminal justice reform, and the border crisis. Former Vice President Joe Biden bore the brunt of the heat last night, repeatedly defending his record on those topics. Ben Tracy is with us now with the latest and more from the White House. So, Ben, let's start with last night's debates. What did the president have to say about the candidates? What are you hearing from the White House? What kind of strategy is he thinking about taking?
Well, the president and his campaign have basically declared him the winner of these 2 Democratic debates. The president last night, once the debate ended, he tweeted saying none of the people up on that stage are going to keep America great, and that if you want the economy to keep humming along, you got to stick with him. The strategy here with the campaign seems to be to say that all of these Democrats are the same. There are no moderates or progressives. They're all the same thing, and they're all socialists. That's what the White House, that's what the campaign wants people to believe. And the president seems to be kind of setting up this argument that you may not like everything I say or everything I do, but going down that road is even riskier.
How effective do you think that will be, Ben?
Well, I think what he's really hoping for is that some of those people in the middle, the folks who are perhaps not inclined to vote for him, but who also are maybe voting based on their paycheck or the economy, that might be enough to resonate with them. He's not worried about his base. He's got those people no matter what. And then there's the other side that it doesn't matter what he says or does or what a Democrat says or does, they're not going to vote for him. So he's looking for that small slice in the middle.
And
go ahead,
switching gears now, North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles, as you know, off its East Coast Wednesday, making it, this is the second time the weapons test, they tested weapons rather, in the last week. What was the U.S.'s response to these missile tests, and did they have any intelligence or idea that this was going to happen?
Well, these missile launches are getting harder and harder to detect, especially these short-range missiles, because North Korea is increasingly using mobile launch systems. So instead of having like a launch pad where with satellites we can detect activity before it happens, they can roll these things out and very quickly launch missiles. And so far, the response is very subdued. We've really heard nothing from the president, and even John Bolton, the national security advisor, who is a real hawk when it comes to North Korea, he has said that because these are short-range missiles and not ICBMs, they don't violate this promise that Kim Jong-un made to the president not to test any of his ICBMs or nuclear weapons. So they're kind of giving him a pass on this so far. We'll have to wait and see how many of these tests they can get away with before the White House has to have a more forceful response.
How do you see this affecting potential new nuclear negotiations?
Well, oftentimes this is North Korea's way of saying, hey, remember us, we're still here, we want to talk to you. But interestingly, in this scenario, we're hearing the Secretary of State say, we're ready to talk. We're waiting for the North Koreans to re-engage and tell us who their team is, who we should be talking to. So there seems to be some miscommunication there as to how eager North Korea is to talk. But the U.S. side is saying, we're ready, just let us know when.
All right, Ben, let me ask you about this. The White House has confirmed the president and Russian leader Vladimir Putin spoke on the phone yesterday. What are you hearing the call was about?
Well, interestingly enough, they talked about trade, which I guess you could say is a normal thing for 2 world leaders to talk about. But they also talked about wildfires. And that may seem curious, but there are a lot of wildfires raging right now in Siberia. It's become a real national emergency in Russia. And the president apparently offered help to Vladimir Putin, said, if you need help fighting these wildfires, we'll help you. That's strange enough, just because the logistics of doing that would be awfully difficult. But also, I think it raised a lot of eyebrows here, because if you remember back when California was battling these massive wildfires last year, there was one point where the president threatened to withhold federal funding for forest management because he didn't think they were doing a good job with it. So on the one hand, you have the president saying, I might not help out California, but on the other hand, you have him saying, but if you need help in Siberia, Vladimir Putin, we're here for you.
Yeah, very ironic. The president and vice president are heading to Cincinnati tonight for a campaign rally. What can we expect he'll bring at the event? You know, we've seen so many of these rallies. We sort of know what to expect. But is there anything different in terms of him potentially attacking the Democrats because they've had 2 days fresh off of these debates?
Also, it's the first rally, as you know, Ben, since the last rally the president held where you had those chants of send her back.
Exactly, and I think that's what everyone is really watching, is to see if the crowd picks up that refrain again, send her back, and if they do, what does the president do about it? Does he just stand there and kind of go with it like he did last time? Does he reprimand them? Does he say, hey, that's not helpful? You do have some local Republicans there in Cincinnati who are saying, we don't want this to happen. We don't want the crowd to do this. We don't want the president to be put in that position. So it'll be interesting to see if that does materialize, how he does respond. Otherwise, I think you can expect a lot of the greatest hits. He'll talk about taxes, he'll talk about the economy, he'll talk about immigration, and I'm sure he will be talking about the Democrats who have taken up a lot of airtime in the last 2 days.
All right, Ben Tracy in D.C., thank you so much.